Hey guys, what is up? Lord Nick here, bringing you the first video of a podcast series that I want to do. So, in the future, guys, just a heads up, I really hope that this podcast will evolve into me having a co-host for this. But for now, I think it's just going to be one of my rambling rant style videos. But the big focus of this podcast is going to be primarily about how ranked is going for myself, how it's going for hopefully co-hosts in the future, how I've been seeing it around my friends from ranks down to bronze all the way up to diamond, a few master players, how they feel ranked is going. Also, kind of want to talk about LCS playoffs right now because that's about to be going on. The LCS regular seasons, if this continues into the summer season, I wish to kind of talk about how that split goes. And then I also kind of want to give you guys some tips and tricks for climbing, and maybe talk about specific champions each week. But just to get it started, this is going to be the Dangerous Game Podcast. I will always be your host, Lord Nick. So let's get it started, guys. And the first topic that we'll be starting with, like I just mentioned, is going to be how ranked is going for me and the general public. So for me, though, ranked is feeling a lot better. It was feeling like crap this season. If you at all had been missing what had happened early on this season, they tried a new thing out in ranked, which I'm not always opposed to. I kind of like how Riot tries out some new things here or there, because it has potential, right? Like, you have a chance for this thing to be great. It's going to be something awesome. And on theory, the idea of position queues plus position ranks just sounded really, really good. Now, position queues are still a thing. That's something they did keep. But the position ranks was something that they'd done early on this season, and they'd done it up to a couple patches ago, and then they killed it. And it was good that they killed it, because there was a lot more problems that occurred from it, a lot more abuse coming from it than they expected. So they had implemented it with the idea that, hey, we can do these rank systems based off of how good you are at your position, because some people are way worse at other positions and are just really good at one position, right? Well, in theory, that works great if all you get is the position you're good at, but when you get this position you're bad at, where's the incentivization to play it? Like, they're taking away some of the problems that you have for getting, autofilled. The problems in autofilled before was that you lose a lot of LP towards your primary, goal of ranking up. Here's the other thing, though. For people like me who played multiple positions, this became much harder. Usually when I'm tilting at one position, I move to another position and start climbing on that for a while, and then when I start doing kind of on that one, I move to another position and start climbing on that for a while. And that's how I climb, and I do generally relatively well with this. But with position ranked, this became a problem because I could climb with one rank for a while, and one role for a while, but then if I ever got tilted on that role, I'd have to stop playing that role, play another role, and I start way farther down on that role. And then if I start losing on that role, my main role starts taking a hit, my side roles start taking a hit, and guess what? If I get somebody who gets in an off roll, one of the things that a lot of these one-trick pony role players were doing was that they were just like, oh, okay, I'm not going to try. Like, they didn't just give up, they didn't just dodge. No, this is what they'd do. They'd go into the game, and then they'd die like 2 or 3 times in lane, and then they just, AFK farm, not group with the team, not try to push, not try to do anything. They just slowly let you guys die and lose the game because they're only losing 3 points on their main role and they don't care about this role. So where's their incentivization to play? So there was a lot of problems with that system. So Riot decided to implement the old ranked system again. So you have positional queues, but you only have one rank. A really good choice, I think, by them. I think the idea of position queues was really, really a good choice, but like, in the future, if they try to go back to it, they potentially could. They just have to find new ways to, kind of encourage people. Maybe, hey, if you win on a side roll, your main roll gets half of what your side roll gets. So instead of only giving it like 4, you give it like 15. But if you lose the full amount. So it still incentivizes them to try. But I mean, at that point, like, you're looking at just going back to the main role. Like, it's like, why even have this if you can't? So there's not a really good way currently to balance it out. But maybe in the future they can figure it out. Because the way I just explained it, basically, is just kind of how it works right now, and it's not always that good. So, but what they did keep from it, which I think was a good thing, is if you try to trade with people, you still get a dock on it. If you have been playing pretty poorly at the ADC position, for instance, and you are really good at jungle, and the person that's at jungle is better at ADC, and you guys switch, you both get less LP for this. That being said, it prevents you from being able to abuse just switching roles with people, and this was abuse that happened in the old system. So I think this is a good change overall. But other than that, my rank climb has been going all right. I think I've been trying out some new stuff that's been allowing me to find my groove and kind of move forward with it. And one of the biggest things that I've been able to do is I found some new junglers that I like to do. So if you guys aren't familiar with my jungle pool, because you don't watch my stream or you don't hang out with me, that's fine. But like some of the stuff that I've done in the past was I'd always play jungle Ivern, Gragas, and those were like my two big ones. And occasionally I'd toss in a Moo, maybe I'd toss in a Zac here or there, but like I never branched to jungle to being one of my full roles. It was just a kind of off role for me. This season, I decided to change that a bit. And the biggest reason I decided to change this is the past couple seasons, they've been really messing with ADC, and it's just not as fun. And then they stopped messing with top lane, and top lane's in a meta that I don't really play. So at this point, it kind of left me with jungle, and it's like, who do I really like to play in jungle, really? And I was like, let's try Gragas out. And Gragas didn't do all that hot for me after a while. I now have like a 33% win rate on him. So that's a little sad, because he's one of my favorite champions, and I think I'm really good at him. But my statistics are not telling you that I'm really good at him. So we kind of left him in the dust for a while now. But I moved over to Amumu, I moved over to Jarvan, and I've recently picked up Urgot, because if you aren't familiar, this last patch, they actually buffed Urgot in a massive, massive way that they didn't, I don't think they intended for this. This is just a side effect of just how busted they made him. And you basically could start doing jungle Urgot now. It caused this. It was a massive shift, and the biggest things that they'd done. So they shifted his shield to his dash, which in and of itself, it's a good change. It's a healthier change, I think. I think it's a better move to have the shield on, because before his W would have it, and to get your shield, you'd have to use your W, and that's not always what you want to do. On top of it, they changed how his AD scales with him. So the more AD you buy, the better it scales with you, and he has better ability scaling with AD now. So you don't build as tanky, you build more damage, or it's supposed to incentivize this. The problem is they didn't really get rid of his tanky stats. They didn't get rid of his scaling tanky stats, and he didn't get rid of his synergy with tankier items. Actually, they encouraged it more because they made the ratios go up on stuff. So what you'd have to do is you'd have to nerf the base damage on everything and increase the scaling on stuff. But they never nerfed the base damage. They just increased the scaling on stuff. So all it really did is say he's back. Like on top of that is at rank 9, if you are maxing out your W, which is how you should be doing it now, because your Q takes a lot of mana sink early, and that makes your early game a lot worse. But your W becomes a toggle, where you basically get to have it on permanent, and that just allows you to proc your passive way too dang often. Also allows you to proc a lot of on-hit effects. So there could be some on-hit Urgot builds that will be coming out soon, but right now you still just kind of build them a bruiser, and until they fix the problem with the fact that you can build damage and bruisery and tanky, like there's no reason not to build him that way. So Urgot is back, and he's back in a dominating fashion. He can now be played in basically everywhere. You can play him top, jungle, ADC, mid, and on that ADC comment there, I've played him ADC, and I have dominated lanes with him as an ADC. He's super strong in that role, potentially. So, aside from that, though, I got to play all these new jungle picks, and because of that, I've just been doing relatively well. Like, I was actually doing some pretty good grinds, got into my promos a couple times. Unfortunately, got the curse of just failing in those, but now I'm going about 50-50. And I'm trying to break that, and I think after this podcast, wrap up here, I'll probably be moving to that. I'll probably be making a guide video on Urgot actually right after this. I've gotten a couple of requests for that, so we'll probably do that as well. As for the general public, a lot of my buddies think that this is probably a healthier change, and a lot of my buddies who were struggling early on this season are now not struggling as hard. They're not doing very well. And I think just the healthiness of rank right now is just not good. And I'd made a lot of predictions last year about why rank could be unhealthy. And one of the biggest things is you see a correlation between assassins and health of the game. The more assassins you have, the general feeling of negativity you get with the game. But generally, when you increase the assassin meta, it also inadvertently makes the bruiser meta better, and it makes the tank meta worse, and it makes the AD worse. Now, a lot of people dislike tank meta because it feels like wet noodles are fighting and you don't have a huge impact, and then people don't like the ADC meta because they're like, I don't like to just right-click. But, I mean, when you're looking at the assassin meta, it's not always even skill matchup, because assassins usually take a lot of skill. I will admit, assassin players are usually some of the most skilled players in the game. except in assassin metas. And the reason why except in these metas is because assassins are only good when their items are broken and the champions are broken. So when that is the case, there's less skill involved. It requires almost no skill to just one-shot somebody when there's no, there's nothing preventing you from one-shotting them. And right now, we've been in a meta like this for a very long time. And it's been encouraging a lot of bruiser plays, and the bruisers are more broken than the assassins now because they can use the items that the assassins were using, and they're naturally tankier, so they're hard to kill. They're usually about as mobile as the assassins, and they usually do less damage, but they're doing about as much, if not more damage. So on top of that, they're just kind of busted, and so, I mean, they're kind of dominating the meta, and so, I mean, it's not the worst meta to ever be in. I honestly, I've been in worse, but it's stale. I can't say that it's a bad meta per se, because there is a lot of options out there. So I mean, you still have a lot of options, and you just got to learn to play against them. And I mean, there's a lot of evolving and adapting that it requires to take. And it's kind of stale because it's been this meta for, God, probably like 5-6 months now. And so I mean, that gets a little stale after a while, I guess. But and there's always the outrage on the forums and on the Reddit posts that, hey, you need to nerf damage, there's too much damage in the game, and then there's the going meme that it's like there's too much damage in the game, and then they add more damage and stuff like that. But in all honesty, I don't know if there's too much damage. I feel like there's too much true damage, and there's too much mobility. I feel like the mobility creep is the thing that gets ignored the most. Like, whenever they introduce a new immobile champion, that immobile champion is usually really bad unless they overstat them. For instance, Nico, she was really, really bad for a number of patches. Then they made her broken by accident, and she was busted until they hotfixed her, and now she's good, but she's not like super good. I mean, she's good, I guess, but I mean, I think that really kind of sums up what it is right now. It's like, okay, you're either super mobile, do a lot of damage, and are extremely hard to kill, so you're broken. Basically, by all definitions, you have no real weak point at that point, or you take a ton of skill to play, even though you're a low-skilled champion, because there's these people that are super mobile, hard to kill, do a lot of damage. So, I mean, like, it's just kind of a stale meta in that regard. I don't dislike this meta. I mean, there's a lot of champions I'm abusing right now, like a Mumu and Jarvan and Gragas. Or not Gragas, not really Gragas. I lied about Gragas. But Urgot, like, I'm using these champions. Like, two of those aren't really super mobile, but they have gap closers to an extent. And one of them is a tank who has a ton of CC that also bursts really hard. And then one of those is just a really hyper mobile burst guy, and it's a lot of fun. And so, I mean, like, there's fun to this meta. You gotta find it. There's just not a lot of fun for ADC players, I guess. But you can find it, I guess. Vayne's pretty broken right now, and Trist isn't bad in the top lane, oddly enough. And then Jinx is really good, and she's immobile. So, I mean, like, any way you look at it, there's options there. There's not, just one playstyle. You just have to adapt your playstyle to beat those playstyles that are dominant right now. So, I mean, I guess ranked is pretty good, and it's going well for me, and a lot of my friends are kind of having fun. I've had a lot of people that hadn't played in a while come back during this meta, so that's good. Like, that should just show that it's pretty good. But from there, we're going to move on to the next part of this podcast that I wanted to do, and the next part is going to be LCS playoff predictions. And this one usually goes better when you have somebody to compare it against too, I guess. And so does the last one, I guess, really. But it's kind of just me rambling to myself, and I didn't want to put on a camera because I'm just kind of rambling and flailing my arms and stuff and just looking like a complete moron. But we're going to talk about playoff predictions. And right now, we have our quarterfinals set up, and it's going to be TSM versus EchoFox, FlyQuest versus Golden Guardians. Oh boy. I'm actually super happy for these matchups. I think these are like the best matchups we could have asked for, and the reason for that is that EchoFox looked super strong the last couple of weeks. They 2-0'd and then 2-0'd again. Boy, these guys are looking like they're going to be doing great. TSM looks like they're going to be doing great. So, like, this is, to me, I think that's a premium match, and I think that's going to be a hard one, and I think it's going to go 5 games there, and I really actually am thinking EchoFox is going to pull ahead, and the biggest reasons for that is EchoFox has not shown... Like, in the past couple of weeks, they're showing less tilt potential than TSM. I think TSM had a little bit closer games in some of their games. EchoFox is just, like, mechanically outplaying and controlling the map in the past 4 games that I was watching. Like, dudes, they look really good right now. Like, I think this is going to be them. This is EchoFox taking it in the best of 5. And if it's a best of 5 match, which I think it is, I believe it's best of 5. I think it's going to go 3-2 EchoFox, and it's going to be a close set. But I think if EchoFox start off with a win, and then they go like, say TSM takes 2 games off of them. I think Echo Fox is then going to go the next 2 and win them. Like I think they're going to just like pull up their big boy pants and they're going to just take it. And I think the biggest playmakers in this one is going to be really the Rush versus Acadian here. And I think Acadian is a good player, but I think Rush has found his groove again, and I think Rush is just going to dominate Acadian. And if that's the case, it's going to help set Broken Blade behind. It's going to get this new guy tilting. It's going to get Acadian back to feeling like he's tilted. Their bot lane and Sven and Smoothie is pretty solid, but I mean, Apollo and Hakuo have gone against some really good bot lanes in the past and have come out ahead and or gone even. And if they can pull that off, I think Phoenix can hold his own against Bjergsen. And really, we're just looking if Solo beats Broken Blade, and that's really going to be the biggest matchup there. But I think in the jungle, you have to give it to Rush. You can't give it to Acadian, even with his performances being as well as they have been. You have to give it to Rush. So that being the case, I give it to Echo Fox in the end. I think Sven and Smoothie are going to have a very hard time forcing in Apollo and Hakuo. I think if they're on their game, it's going to be hard to just kill these guys and get ahead. So that being the case, Apollo is really good at playing even with other ADCs and is very good at showing that he can dominate in team fights. That is how he wants to play. That's how Hakuo wants to play. That being the case, Sven and Smoothie kind of been wanting to get ahead in the lane some, and then like into the team fights, they do the same thing. But I think that Apollo and Hakuo have played this style for much longer, and these guys are going to dominate because of that. And I think that's where the edge is going to be coming from, not so much in the mid lane, because I mean, when you're looking at it, Phoenix is definitely worse than Bjergsen. But at his best, I think he can go even, if not play it out. And Echo Fox has been playing more aggressive, and TSM's been playing more passive. And Echo Fox showed that they can dismantle Team Liquid, who wanted to play like TSM play. And if that's the case, I think Echo Fox has the advantage in this matchup. So I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch, but I'm giving it to Echo Fox. Then, we're down to FlyQuest Guardians. And boy, this is going to be a fun one, because this is going to be a bloodbath, and I think it's going to be super, super weird. And what I mean by that is, I don't know how to predict who's going to come out ahead here. POB has been doing pretty solid this year. Froggen's been pretty solid. I think the two of them are pretty even matched right now. And then you look at the bot lane. Let's look at that. So you have Ole and Deathly versus Wild Turtle and JJ. And like each of those two sides have one person that is looking much better than the other. Deathly keeps getting caught and killed, so Ole keeps going on like Tom Kench to save him, and it doesn't seem to be working. But then the rest of frickin' Golden Guardians go in and they clean up the fights and they win the fights and they push it in and they win. Meanwhile, on FlyQuest, you have JJ, who constantly is the sacrificial lamb, and then the team goes in and gets into the bloody fights and wins them. So it's going to be, like, really cool team fights. I think it's going to go down to 5. In this one, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be, like, trade-off 1, and get to the 5th game, and who's going to win. And, like, I think that's how it's going to go, and I really think it's going to be between Froggen and Pobelter. Like, you hear, I'm not even talking about the top laners. Haunter has been solid, but he's a non-factor really for Golden Guardians. And then you talk about FlyQuest and you're looking up there and you're like, okay, Viper's good, but I don't think he's going to be like pushing in and killing and slaughtering Haunter. I think Haunter is just too safe of a laner, so that's going to nullify anything from Viper really until the team fights. But then the teams are really good at team fighting, so it's going to be really, really close. So I think it really comes down to Pobelter and Froggen. It's not going to come down to Santorin, and it's not going to come down to Contracts, though Contracts has made some massive differences in how Golden Guardians plays. If Contracts plays like he did a couple weeks ago, where it's the Contract show, like, I think this is going to be Golden Guardians, hands down. But if we're looking at the average of how each of these teams have played this season, if we're looking at how they've each kind of gotten to playoffs, I think it's going to be much closer than that, and I think this is going to be a very exciting, matchup, because both of these teams really like to force the team fights. And if that is the case, we're looking at POB, the POB, Notorious Pob versus Froggen. And man, my gut tells me to go with Froggen. My gut is really telling me to go with Froggen here. But Pobelter has been really looking good this season. Like, this is the first season where I'm just like, damn, Pobelter is good. Like, I have never said that in my life before. I've always thought he was an overrated mid. But he proved me wrong this split, and he did pretty damn well this split. But my heart's still telling me to go Golden Guardians. I'm going with the veterans. I'm going with Golden Guardians, and I'm going to say the GG is going to go to GG. We're not going to talk about semifinals yet because we don't really know who they're playing yet, because the teams are waiting for who wins, and then Team Liquid gets to choose who they play, and then C9 gets to play the other one. So we don't know who they're playing yet. So we'll wait out on that, and who do I think is, but we will predict who I think is going to get to finals. Because if Echo Fox wins and Golden Guardians win, who's going to choose who? And I think Team Liquid's going to be the ones like, we're going to take Echo Fox. Is they're easily I would think they want to say that they would take Echo Fox, but now that I actually say that out loud, I think they'd avoid it. If Echo Fox wins, I think they're going to be like, C9, you get to play these guys. Get them out of here. We'll take Golden Guardians. Because there's less fear to losing to the Guardians there. I think it's more guaranteed closer matchup, and I think Liquid would take that one in the end. But I don't know how cocky they are. They might be really cocky and be like, we'll take Echo Fox, and then lose to Echo Fox. Like, if Team Liquid plays Echo Fox, I give it to Echo Fox. Like, I think Echo Fox just has their number now. I think Echo Fox plays a style that Liquid has looked really rough the past couple of weeks fighting against, and Echo Fox can take it. If it's TSM, I think Liquid, again, avoids TSM. So, like, I think whoever comes out of FlyQuest Golden Guardians is playing Team Liquid. And that being the case, I think it's going to be a very exciting matchup for C9. C9 v TSM would be really cool. C9 v Echo Fox would be really neat. But really, who I'm going to predict getting to the finals, because we're going to just kind of skip the semifinal predictions, because we really don't know. I don't really know how to predict that. I don't really know how Team Liquid's preparing. I don't know but I'm pretty sure they're going to go for whoever wins between FlyQuest GG. I think it's going to be Golden Guardians over FlyQuest, in all honesty. I mean, FlyQuest is good, but I think Golden Guardians just has the roster to do it. I think they can beat FlyQuest, and that being the case, I think they're going to fight Team Liquid, just because I think Team Liquid's going to take the safer route to the finals, because they looked real shaky in the last couple of weeks, so that just seems to be the logical choice there, and I think that's who they're going to take. That means that my prediction where Echo Fox wins, Echo Fox is going to be versus C9. So if that's the case, C9 v Echo Fox, that's a hard one for me. As much as TSM has started to look like a better team, and I think they're better than Team Liquid, I think Echo Fox can't beat C9. I think C9 is going to be that kryptonite to Echo Fox. I really feel like it is, because C9 knows how to play that aggressive game, and they've been doing it a lot. And if that's the case, it comes down to who plays it more effectively. And as much as I want to vote for Echo Fox in that one, I say C9 takes that 3-0. Like, that's rough coming out of my for predictions here for me. But like, I just see C9 as the better version of Echo Fox. Like, I see Echo Fox being good, but I think C9 is just a better version of them. So I say C9 takes it and goes to the finals. And then Team Liquid versus Golden Guardians, I want to go Golden Guardians. And if it's the Team Liquid that we've seen the past 3 games that have lost, I'm giving it to Golden Guardians. But Team Liquid has a couple weeks to prep for this. And if that's the case, they're probably prepping for one of these two teams. And both of them play very similarly, so it's not hard for them to have to prep for it. So whoever they have to play, they have to prep against a similar style. So it's kind of easier for Team Liquid to take this game. This game is a much easier one for them to predict. The TSM Echo Fox one, you know how Echo Fox plays, you know how TSM plays. Echo Fox generally would counter by the play that they do versus TSM, but say TSM manages to outplay them and holds it off and wins it. That's a much more, like, you're thinking TSMs are the top dogs in that one, but Echo Fox could upset this one really hard. So like, that one is a little bit more risky, because yeah, you'll be taking TSM, like you're going to be prepping teching for TSM, but what if Echo Fox does win that? Then you're screwed. Like, go for the FlyQuest GG one, because that's probably the easier one to predict, because they each play very similar styles. So that's the safer route. So I think that's where Team Liquid's going to go. And I think Team Liquid's going to win that. Like, in all honesty, I don't see Team Liquid losing to either of those teams. I could see them losing to FlyQuest because they've already done it. I can't see them losing to GG, though. Like, as much as I want to say that, GG would beat them, it's going to be GG going up to them, is my prediction right now. GG in a close 5. It's going to be Golden Guardians going up to them. And I don't honestly can say that I think Golden Guardians has it to beat Team Liquid. Now, if they can get if they can get Impact or Xmithy or both of them kind of tilting, yeah, I give it to them. They can do it. If Contracts is playing his game, I think Golden Guardians could win. And if Xmithy and Impact are on their like low games, then yeah, I give it to GG at that point. But I don't think that's going to happen. But if we go to the finals, so now I'm saying Team Liquid and C9 are going to be in the finals. isn't like the easy predictions, right? Like this is these guys are gonna go in, right? C9 wins it. I say C9 wins it 3-0. Team Liquid has been beating C9, but I think C9 is going to be like on their game no matter what. C9 is going to be in there and they're going to be on their game. I think Team Liquid's going to be kind of demoralized if they have to go to 5 games. And I think versus Golden Guardians or FlyQuest, if it's FlyQuest, I think FlyQuest can beat Team Liquid. But if it's Golden Guardians, I think it's going to go to 5 games. And it's going to be Team Liquid, and Team Liquid's going to be more demoralized that it went to 5 games than to easy 3-0. Then I give it to C9 beating Team Liquid. And I think it's going to be like C9 stomp, and then C9 just close it out. Like, that's how I kind of predict that to go. So I'm saying C9's going to take it and go to MSI for us this year, guys. In some close games, not even. I think C9's going to 3-0 two times in a row and go. And I'm not personally like a C9 fanboy or anything. If anything, of these teams that are remaining, Echo Fox is my favorite team, but I'm giving it to C9 over Echo Fox in that one. But I am predicting Echo Fox to beat TSM just because I think right now their playstyle is going to beat them. I'm giving it its Golden Guardians just because I think, reliably speaking, Froggen is more reliable than POB as a carry. And I think his team knows how to play around him better. Right now, I think they have the better chance of playing around him. And I think Haunter can hold off Viper to allow Contracts to just let Froggen snowball and win it. So that's kind of where it goes. And then Team Liquid beats them because I think Team Liquid is the better team of the two, but I think like it's going to go to 5 and it's going to be demoralizing enough that Team Liquid can't beat C9. So that's my predictions for playoffs, guys. If you have any, remarks about that, if you have any questions about that, shoot me up, guys. Put them in the comments and stuff. The last big topic I really want to talk about before we get into tips and tricks is going to be the LCS regular season, how it kind of all ended, guys. So we're going to talk about the regular season here. If you guys don't know the standings, here are the standings, starting with first Team Liquid, then Cloud9, TSM, into FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, Echo Fox, CLG, and Optic are both tied for 7th. Then Clutch at 9th, and 10th is 100 Thieves. So at the beginning of the year, I kind of made predictions myself, though I didn't really share them with most people, but my predictions went as follows. I saw TL, I saw Cloud9, I saw TSM, I didn't see FlyQuest. I was being a big old fanboy and like, hey, 4th place going to be Clutch Gaming, so that was way wrong. And then I saw Golden Guardians and I saw Echo Fox, and I thought the rest of the teams were going to be like there. I thought 100 Thieves was going to be 7th, and then I think I then said like Optic, and then I went FlyQuest, and then I went CLG. I thought CLG was going to be dead last, so there was a little bit wrong in my standings there. I got 4 of the top teams, like. Yeah, like, go me. Like, 4 of the top 6 teams, actually 5. I got one of them in the wrong place, but I put somebody way in the wrong place there. But let's talk a little bit about, what happened this season. What did we really see? Really what we saw was that the caliber of the American players has gotten better. North America has gotten better players. Like, that's good. That's really strong, guys. Like, that's a strong showing this year that North America is getting better, because the Korean imports weren't as big of an impact this year. If you look at it, in those bottom 4 teams, outside of CLG, each of those has 2 Korean imports on that team. Optic, Arrow, and Crown. You got a Clutch, and you have technically 3, but one of them is now considered American, but you have Piglet, Lyra, and Huni, like, nothing. And then you have 100 Thieves of Someday and Bang and nothing. Like, and what really broke it down, when you're looking at it, both CLG and Optic could have gotten into that spot, but Echo Fox had a really good surge at the end of the season to allow them to take that spot over them. So if we're looking at that, right, like we're looking at, they win these games, they got this. This is really good of them, right? This is a solid play by them. Let's take a look at some of what made these, bottom 4 teams bottom 4 in comparison to what made the top 6 top 6. So the top 6, the top 3 you could arguably say are just really good teams. These are there's no argument to it. These 3 teams are been on point all season. FlyQuest had a bit of a divot in the 4th place, in that 4th place spot, but towards the end they really proved that they were contenders. Golden Guardians, kind of similar actually. They had actually a rougher start at the beginning, and then just started making a nice surge towards the end. Echo Fox had a okay start in the middle, like really bad close to the end, and then at the end, the last 2 weeks, they just kind of took it. So, we kind of know what each of those guys go. All the playoff teams, I kind of just talked about what their styles were. I kind of just talked about who I think is going to be the best out of them. But if we're looking at the rest of them, the other four that didn't make playoffs is the big focus here. What were their big core problems? And Counter Logic Gaming is kind of be the easiest one to kind of diagnose here. Well, the second easiest. I think Optic's actually the easiest. But we'll start with Counter Logic because they're the first one on this list. Counter Logic's biggest problem is they are relying on an old top laner who I think is now kind of like proving he has potential, but like he is not what you want him to be. Like Zix was having problems with Darshan performing, not like the player himself being a bad person or a horrible guy. And I'm not even saying I hate Darshan. I think he's a great. He seems to be like a really cool dude. He seems to be a great personality, and he has potential to be this really good player. But he has a problem that everybody seems to have. A lot of people end up having when they're really good, is you have really high highs, really low lows. He's just not been in those really high highs in a while. Like he used to be that player. Like you have a really high high and you'll have a really low low, but whatever. If those high highs are good enough, like we're gonna win. But he hasn't had those high highs in a long time. Like this year, he had maybe a couple of games, maybe 2 games that really come to mind to me. And even then, I can't even think who their opponents were. But I was just like, when I think of his performance, there was 2 games this year that I was like, Darshan did well. And that's a weak point. That's a massive weak point. On top of that, you're hoping Wiggly just kind of goes off. And Wiggly did well. He's kind of newer, and I don't think he was that good. Power of Evil, solid mid lane. This is a really good guy. Like, this is a really, clutch individual to have in that position. So I think, like, that's a really good strong point for them. And then you have Stixay and Biofrost, and I think both of these guys are just kind of, like, sub-tier in their roles. Like, there's some solo queue players I think honestly could have been better upgrades to either of these if they had went for trying to get Vulcan off of the academy team previously. Like I don't know if they could have gotten him, but Vulcan on Clutch was a better support this season than Biofrost. Biofrost had some solid games, but he also had some absolute ass games. Like he was just so inconsistent in how he played. And then you have Stixay, who was just literally probably one of the worst ADCs in the league, and that's even talking about like Piglet, who didn't do anything, I think still was better than Stixay. That's just really sad to talk about. So like you have 3 players on this team that just honestly looked super weak. Wiggly looked okay. PoE looked really good. Stixay and Bio, when they were on it, but for the most part they weren't. And then Darshan, who had like 2 notable games, and then the rest of them were kind of like mediocre to shit. Like he was just not a good factor. So I think if CLG is looking at anything, they've stuck with 2 players for a very long time, and I don't think either of them are going to perform to that caliber you need to become a top-tier team. Next up, you have Optic, and I think Optic's biggest problem was figuring out which part of the roster they needed in. They kept subbing out their ADC, they kept subbing out their jungle, and they couldn't commit to one or the other, and it kind of worked. I mean, for a good while it was kind of working, and then they just kind of burned towards the end of the season. And the biggest problem was there was just no synergy in the end. Like, you could say that these guys knew how to play together, but, like, if you're switching them out so constantly, there's not any time for them to build super big bonds with one player and learn that they can play really, really well with one player in a certain way. I get it. You're going to play well with this guy, but you're going to play a different way with this guy. And if that's the case, you're not going to have a consistent play out of your team. And I think that was their biggest problem, really. Like, none of their players were super subpar. Arrow wasn't great, but he wasn't, like... He wasn't at the bottom. I don't think he was the worst ADC in the league. I think, he wasn't great, but, there's a lot of problems that this team had, but most of it stemmed from the fact that they just kept swapping people in and out. Sorry about that. If that's the case, just kind of get a roster together, and next you split. You guys just try with one standardized roster. Maybe you switch out your jungle on occasion. But, like, nail it down, figure it out. Like, they had potential. They could have done it, and I think they just fell apart because they just couldn't consistently keep their roster in the same mentality and the same playstyle. Clutch, there's way too many problems going into this. I've made a video about them, guys. Like, I want to talk about them. They are my favorite LCS team, but, like, God, there were so many problems with these guys. If you want more in-depth stuff on them, there's a video that I did a while back that kind of addressed some of their problems, but, like, just to kind of highlight it, I think that there's just no synergy on this team. And that doesn't necessarily mean you get rid of these players. I think these players all have potential to have great synergy together, but the problem came down is that they don't seem to be friends. They're friendly co-workers, but they're not friends, and they're not working together, and they're not talking. So, like, if that's the case, you have to address these problems to get better. And you have the potential. Like, these guys are all good in their role. You just got to get them talking. You got to get them working together. You got to get them as friends, and you got to get them to just do what they need to do to win. But if they're all trying to play solo queue, where they're not talking and they're not addressing, of course they're just going to get manhandled by all the people that are actually playing as teams. So if that's the case, like, why even roster these guys? Like, why not get a new roster? And a lot of the Clutch fan base is calling for a new roster. I'm one of the few people that is adamant that we need to keep this roster, and we just need to improve upon the problems that they had this split, and that they would then fix it enough that they can win next split. And I think they could. They had the potential to be the top team next split, but they really have to work on the problems and shore up the issues that they had this split. And I think the biggest one amongst those is not being more than just work associates, and communication, the lack thereof it. And so I think that's their biggest focus for this next split. And lastly, but definitely not least, is going to be 100 Thieves. And this is the biggest blunder by almost everybody's account. I didn't have a very high expectation of them because I thought they were on the down, and I continued that trend. I didn't think this was going to be a bounce back. It's like, okay, cool. You just, replaced your crap ADC. You replaced an ADC that didn't perform. I'm not even going to call them crap. You replaced an ADC that didn't perform with an ADC that hasn't been performing in Korea, who was good. Mind you, this guy's a great ADC, but, like, when was the last time Bang won Worlds? It's been a couple of years now, right? Was Bang the all-star at Worlds, or was it the fact that Bang and Wolf worked really well together? Or was it the fact that Faker was a god? Like, you can't break down why SKT was the 100% win. The chances that SKT did that they won, that they were that great. But the last time they were at Worlds, he was at Worlds with Huni. He was on Worlds with Faker. He was at Worlds with a team that should have, on paper, won. But their synergy and their playstyle and their team communication was not great, and it wasn't a super healthy environment for them. And that's why he left, and that's why Huni left. Like, he left a year after Huni, of course. Like, mind you, Huni came back last year. He came back to the NA. While Bang was still over in Korea, trying to chase the Korean dream, and SKT had one of the worst splits they've ever had. So if that's the case, you can't honestly say that this guy was going to be a sheer fucking upgrade. This guy's coming off of losing on a team that used to be one of the most dominant teams in the world, and has now since been having a very rough time until this year, where they upgraded basically everybody on their roster. And even then, they're not first. And then you're bringing a guy who's obviously thought to be worse than Teddy. So if that's the case, that's saying SKT thinks he's worse. That's the same thing that they said about Piglet, and that's the same thing that made Piglet leave. And so you're just basically grabbing another guy who's just playing second fiddle to Faker, and you're hoping he's going to fix all the problems in your team. Guess what? He's just going to add new ones. Here's why. You didn't address the problems that your team was on a downward spiral last year. You didn't address it this year. Your coaching staff is Prawley. Prawley is a great coach. Mind you, he did really well for coaching them the first split, but guess what? He also had a star-studded lineup in that first split. You have Ryu, you have Meteos, you have Someday, you have Afromu, and you have, I think, Cody's son, I think, was their ADC. I don't remember who their ADC was at Spring Split. They were good. That was a great team. But guess what? Afromu and Meteos didn't work together because Afromu really liked to make his one calls. Meteos obviously liked his playstyle. When they were playing Meteos' game, guess what? They were winning constantly. And Afromu wasn't happy with that. And basically, it sounded like there was an ultimatum there. You keep Afromu or you keep Meteos. And Meteos left. And guess what? I think that's the biggest mistake that they have ever made. Because obviously, since then, they've been struggling to strive to that same performance that they had before. So Meteos' playstyle was working for all their players except for one. And guess what? You kept that one and you got some new players and you went to his playstyle. And guess what? You're now 4-14, dead last in the LCS. So obviously, Afromu, being this amazing shot caller that he is and team unificating boss that he is, either has issues communicating and getting these teams to work because Anda's not great. I didn't ever think Anda was going to replace Meteos. There's no way Anda can stand up to those shoes. So, like, you're putting in Anda because you have your import slots now taken up by Bang and by Someday, both of which did not perform great this split. Mind you, Someday is a god, so that's fine, and Bang has potential to be the best ADC in North America. So, give it time, sure. But then you get Huhi, Why would you, of all the things you could go for, POB is open. Nah. FlyQuest's going to get hit. We don't want Pobelter. He's just on one of the best teams, that ever played North American LCS multiple times. So instead, we're going to go with Huhi, a guy who's been on a bottom frickin' team for close to 6 goddamn splits, to fill in for the fact that we're getting rid of Ryu? A guy who, yes, while wasn't the best performer on your team, definitely was not like a fucking utter failure or anything. But you're going with Huhi. He's won one split. Mind you, one. One split title to his name. Avramu has a split title. He was on that team that won that split. And guess what? Avramu then won another split last year on your team. So guess what? You have a guy who, in one role, has been to the splits and won 2 splits. You then pick up a guy who's won 1 split, but he's only done that once, and otherwise his team has been abysmal and towards the bottom. And he's definitely been having a low, because CLG, if he wasn't the worst problem with CLG would have kept him and kept playing around him. But guess what? They built a team around Hui, and it didn't work. And so now you're bringing him in to fill in for Ryu. It just didn't make sense. There's also solo queue mid laners you could have gone with. Shoot, Sun on the Clutch Gaming, side team could have done it. Try to grab Golden Glue from Cloud9 Academy, give him a start spot. That would have been actually probably better. There's so many other players you could have been trying to grab, but instead you went with Huhi. And that was just a bad choice. That was just an utterly horrible choice. On top of that, this team is not listening to Aframu, obviously, or he's not actually, calling the right calls. Either they are listening to him and he's making 100% the wrong calls, or they aren't listening to him because they either, 1, don't trust his judgment, or 2, just don't know what to do because nobody's directing them and nobody's helping them grow as players. So, there's something abysmally wrong with this team. There's a big reason why I'm digging into this team and not Clutch is because I've already kind of dug into Clutch in a different video. I'm digging into this team because this is where this team utterly failed. This is where this team is utterly just made the wrong roster moves, made the wrong choices on how to approach coaching these players, because obviously probably did fail. He did fail in, correcting some of these problems that he probably could have fixed early on to help them do well. They were 3-3 at one point, they won 1 other game since then, and they went 11 losses otherwise. So, if that's the case, how do you go and fix it for this next split? I really don't know how they're going to fix it for this next split. I don't think they should break up that core roster, but I think you definitely get rid of Anda, you definitely get rid of Huhi, and you try your damnedest to try to get, maybe Dardoch from Optic. Yeah, great, he's not going to be great, but he ain't going to come back till, Meteos ain't coming back. So try to get Dardoch from over there. Maybe he will work with Aframu. Maybe he'll actually work with this composition. And maybe, hey, okay, cool, you get rid of Huhi, who you're going to go for? Damonte's being benched on Clutch. I wouldn't want to see Damonte leave Clutch, but if they have no ambition of putting him back and they want to keep Piglet in the mid, go ahead and grab frickin' Damonte and put him in there. Or shoot, try to grab Piglet maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But that's gonna kind of summarize the end of my rant on them. Hopefully that wasn't too much into that. And the last thing we're going to talk about, guys, is tips and tricks. Tips and tricks for solo queue stuff. Guys, this is going to be a tips and tricks for jungle. This is easy tips and tricks. This is just going to be a small category of hey, if you don't know this, this is something you can do to do better in this role. For instance, jungle this time around. So, if you don't know this, guys, one of the easiest tips that you can do as a jungler, and something I don't implement a lot, but if you're having issues with your team not warding, your 2 wards aren't going to do a whole hell of a lot. Guess what? Your 2 wards could do a lot and could tell them where the enemy jungler is. But if your team's not warding, that means they generally don't look to wards, which means they're going to rely on you to gank for them a whole lot more. So if that's the case, switch it to a sweeper early. And here's why. You use that sweeper as you're entering towards the river, and you know what that does? It prevents them from seeing you. Do not hit that ward that you now have revealed. Just walk past it. Guess what? If the enemy team is not paying enough attention, they're not going to notice that they just lost vision for, maybe 2-3 seconds as you ran by. If they are actively looking for it, they can do it. But it's actually sometimes hard to notice that, hey, my whole area went black. Especially if they're trying to go for a fight, which is where you're trying to gank behind them. The only time this doesn't work is if you go over a red ward. So generally avoid the red ward pathing, and as long as you path into the river where they generally won't have a red ward, you can gank those lanes pretty easily towards bot or towards top, or sometimes even into the mid. So that's just a little easy tips and tricks for you in the jungle. That's it. That's just a simple one for you guys. That's how I kind of want to end each of these videos, with just one simple tips or tricks. And if I have co-hosts in the future, maybe I'll leave it. If you guys are interested in more videos like this, please leave a comment, leave a like, send me a message on Discord, join my Discord, come hang out on my Twitch. All of these things will be mentioned in below. Any of the links you want to contact me on, be it my Twitter, my Twitch, my Facebook, even though I don't really use the Facebook, those are going to be linked below. If you want to be trying to be one of my co-hosts, I want to know what you know about the game, and I'm looking for people who are very analytical minded as well and don't mind doing some of the research on the topics. I'll give you the topic about a week out. We'll give about a week to do it, and I want to try to record these things either on Fridays or Thursdays, and try to release them on Fridays as well. But thank you guys for watching. If you've watched it all the way through, I know this is kind of a long video, and I appreciate it, guys, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.